Video of a bridge that collapsed in Minnesota was all over YouTube. Everyone wanted to see the bridge falling down, just as everyone watched over and over the video of the Twin Towers collapsing, and the video of the New Orleans levees breaking, and the video of the Thailand tsunami washing over seaside villages, and the video of Mount St. Helens erupting. We watch these videos because we think that seeing something destroyed will help us understand what happened. But most destruction isn't sudden, and it's not very photogenic. Destruction is usually a slow process. Things decay and fade and rust and fatigue over a long period of time before they finally come tumbling down. And it isn't just bridges and dams and other structures that come to their end that way. It's also true of governments and other social institutions. Over time, the support for institutions crumbles unless it is maintained. An important question facing the U.S. right now is to what extent the support for our way of life has been undermined, and whether the damage is so extensive that our country is headed for an inevitable collapse. This question has arisen at other times in our past. In the early part of the last century, some thought that the rise of trade unions was so serious a threat to American capitalism that our lifestyle was doomed. Some thought, as they watched images on TV of Detroit and Chicago and Los Angeles on fire during the riots of the 1960s, that they were viewing the beginning of the end. And some people think, as they watch the Bush administration dismantling the Constitution, that the end of the American empire is at hand. Past worries about the survival of America have all proved premature. That doesn't mean that this time there is no need for concern. No empire has ever lasted forever, so ours probably won't. It's just a question of when the structure will become so weakened that it topples, not whether it will happen. Some observers have been sounding an alarm, trying to convince others that restoration work on our country's social structure is urgently needed. Like building inspectors, they see problems developing and want them fixed before a lot of people get hurt. But instead of heeding these alarms, Bush's supporters criticize the people who are trying to save our country and accuse them of blaming America first. Instead of working to fix what is wrong with our country, the Bush administration tries to discredit the people who are pointing out the problems. Whether or not we are concerned about the weaknesses that have been developing in our country doesn't only depend on how significant the problems are. We also need to consider what will happen if our country does indeed collapse. Will we become a second-rate economic power? Will we have a lower standard of living? Will we lose the benefits of civil rights? Or perhaps the changes will be even more extreme. Will we become a failed state like others we have seen where violence rules? Will we be subsumed into some other country? Will we make a peaceful transition to a dictatorship or some other form of government? These are things we should ponder as we decide whether to look more closely into the cracks we notice in our society, or whether we can afford to paper over those cracks and pretend they aren't there.